Welcome to Fairy the Greyhound. We've been up in the Scottish Highlands, and this is part 7, the final part of our journey, where we stop off at Glen Etive. We were staying in Glencoe at the Red Squirrel campsite. We woke up and it was freezing cold and had snowed overnight. So Fairy was well wrapped up on the bed in the van. And when we went outside, we could see snow on the mountains. We really enjoyed staying at this campsite. We had a lovely remote pitch next to the river. It was very, very quiet and beautiful scenery. We gave Fairy her breakfast in the van this morning as it was so cold. She had her usual freshly cooked chicken breasts mixed with her kibble. While I went for a hot shower, and I loved this Highland cow shower curtain that they had. Very Scottish. And when I got back from my shower, I found Fairy still asleep in the van, so I had to persuade her to get up and out of her pyjamas so that we could move on to our final stop on our Scottish trip. We decided we were going to spend our final night down the Glen Etive road. The River Etive is a river that we paddle because we're both kayakers, and there's some lovely places where you can pull up by the river and wild camp. It was a very grey and damp day, and the further we got into the mountains, the more snow we saw. And we made a stop off in the very popular tourist car park, the Glencoe Valley Viewpoint. This is where all the bus tours stop on their way through to look down the valley and look over at the Three Sisters Mountains. This is the most photographed place in the whole area, and it was very cold and windy, so we got out, had a few photographs, and then got back in the van on our way. If you're a James Bond fan, you will notice that this is the area in which the film Skyfall, some of the scenes from that film were shot here, including where they were standing with the car parked, looking down the valley next to the river. We parked up and got out and walked down to the riverside to watch some kayakers. This is a river that is frequently paddled. My partner has paddled it lots of times, and he was quite cross that he didn't bring his boat on this trip and didn't get to paddle it. I haven't paddled this one yet, but it's on my list. When I get back to paddling fitness after my long COVID, I would like to paddle this river one day. This man in the red boat was obviously a beginner or a novice. He looked very wobbly at the top and actually did end up going upside down. He came out of his boat and ended up swimming about 3 times in the 10-15 minute period we were watching, so I bet he was very cold. Some of the other people there had 2 lovely Labradors, which Fairy made friends with. After we'd finished watching the kayakers, I took the opportunity to get some nice photos of Fairy with the mountains in the background. And when I came back, the man in the red boat was out of his boat again. We got back in the van, and it was just a quick 5-minute drive down the road to where we were going to be parking for the night for our Skyfall 007 wild camp. We found a nice big lay-by right next to the river, very remote, as you can see. There's the van in the distance. And then we got our rain gear on and went off for a walk. We walked up the road a little bit and across a wooden bridge, and we were in search of a river, which again my partner usually paddles when he's got his boat with him. Fairy's never too keen on walking across bridges. She always looks a bit unsure, but she's getting a lot more confident, especially as we've had to go over a lot of bridges on this trip. This river is called the Outrerain. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that correctly, but that gap you can see behind Fairy there, you can actually kayak down that. Not sure I'd want to, but my partner has done. And all of this you can kayak. Maybe I'll do it one day, although you do have to carry your kayak all the way up the footpath to get to the top of the river, as there's no road. I don't like carrying my kayak, it's very heavy. When we got back from our walk, Fairy was obviously very tired and got on the bed and got wrapped up in some nice warm blankets to have a snooze, whilst we had our dinner. It was pouring with rain, and Matt then went to wash up in the river and got soaked. And apart from the rain and wind on the van roof, we did have a very quiet, peaceful night here. And when we got up in the morning, I stepped out of the van to take Fairy for her morning wee, and I was wearing my Crocs and I slipped over. So I put my foot down to walk down the grassy bank outside the van and went flying. And you can see that my pyjamas got absolutely covered in thick mud. And the river level had risen a lot overnight from all the rain that we'd had, and was rushing down past the van this morning. Fairy enjoyed her little walk. We hardly saw any other cars down this road, overnight or in the morning when we were stopped here. And as usual, we had another little photo shoot. So many photo opportunities here in Scotland with the beautiful scenery and a beautiful dog. Fairy always waits patiently when she gets back to the van to have her feet wiped before she gets in. Fairy watched us cooking our breakfast from the comfort of the bed. We had a bit of a strange breakfast this morning. We had to use up all the things that we had left over. So we had tortilla wraps with sour cream and chive spread, ham hock and halloumi, which we cooked on the stove. It wasn't our usual breakfast, but it was actually really delicious. Fairy went for one last toilet break before we got back in the van, all packed up and ready to leave Scotland. As we drove up past the river, Matt got out to have a look, and you can see the difference in the water level today after all the rain. And funnily enough, nobody was kayaking it today. I hope you've enjoyed our series of 7 Scottish videos. Really enjoyed making them. Thank you to everybody who has commented on them. I really love reading your comments. If you haven't yet subscribed, please click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. And our next trip will be Wales, so stay tuned for some more Welsh adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.